Well, good morning, everyone. Let me get my notes up here, my astrology notes up here. Good morning again. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the third day of February 2020. Well, it's a Monday, so we have lots of water energy today. It's a moon day. Emotions may be high. Let's see. Most planets are still in the 11th and 12th house. We've been seeing that for weeks now. All last month it was that way. Let's see. The ascendants moved into Pisces. You may want to rely on others. You may feel like relying on others to take the initiative today and for a little while the ascendant's in Pisces. Let's see. Adaptability, sensitivity, compassion is high. Also, empathic ability might be high today. The moon's in the second house in Gemini right now, though, and I did this astrology at about 9 o'clock this morning. New ideas are flowing surrounding possessions and self-worth. Maybe you might get the idea to go shopping and buy something to make you feel better. Nothing wrong with that. Sextile Chiron, between Chiron and the moon, sensitivity again is high today, sort of aligning with the ascendant in Pisces. So I think we're just going to see that theme, sensitivity, maybe running high today for people. Observe the synchronicities that happen because they're going to today. They're going to provide a window into healing, and you just may want to keep to yourself today if emotions get to be too high, and if sensitivities get too high, and if clarity can't be achieved surrounding something. So then the sun is in the 11th house in Aquarius, still innovative, extroverted activity, obviously. Networking with people will happen today. Venus is in the 12th house in Pisces, again, so emotions may be in flux. Nurture yourself if that's the case. Again, with the ascendant in Pisces, we're sensitive today. Sextile Saturn, though, your love life might be evening out. So if there's been some conflict, you might see some of that settle today. Because everybody's going to be feeling sensitive, maybe. I don't know. That's probably going to be the stimulus for that. So Mars still in the 9th house in Sagittarius. Jupiter's still in the 10th house in Capricorn. So you're looking at both of those. You're looking at adventuresome and being focused and determined and all of that. But somehow or another, you're going to have to balance all of that adventuresome side with Jupiter in the 10th house in Capricorn. So you don't want to have that impact career, but on the other hand, maybe a little innovation might actually get you that new position. So, so you're going to have to kind of mold that around, whatever setting you're in today. So Saturn is still in the 11th house or it's in this 11th house in Capricorn today. We're going to, it's been vacillating back and forth, I think between the 12th and the 11th. What we want to do is we're going to want to reassess our relationships. Some are going to end, some may begin. You may find that you maybe join a new group. You've left one and now you're going to head for another one. But in any event, Uranus is still being in the first house in Taurus. It's signifying a restlessness, a sense of restlessness and an openness to change in structure and routine. So that's going to blend into maybe leaving one setting and maybe moving into another. But here's the problem. And I checked to see if this was still in effect, and it still is. Deception's really high right now. We're seeing it, outside of ourselves in terms of the government and all of that. Tremendous level of deception going on right now. We're in a lot of trouble there. This is this Uranus semi-square Neptune aspect that has been happening. It's what it's telling us is that we're in trouble. And what that means is that we're not able to discern the con that's in front of us, or at least some of us aren't. And unfortunately, if we accept what they're dishing out, then who we are as a country is going to change dramatically. So I suspect that that's not going to happen. But sometimes these things take on a life of their own, and amazingly bizarre things start happening, which is what's been going on. And in other words, it's so serious that it's the equivalent of thinking up is down, left is right. In other words, the opposite. You live in the opposite. That's your truth, opposite from what really is truth. And you don't know, you end up doing that. And it's because you've bought into a con that's being delivered on all of us, right? So it's bad enough when it's going on countrywide. If it's going on in your personal life, just be aware that that there could be some deception at work that's keeping you off balance, that's keeping you, we're using the word gaslighting all the time, with the guy in the Oval Office, because that's what he does. It's one long gaslighting session for him, and he takes great delight in it. And it doesn't matter, who he's gaslighting, if it's the people that don't believe him or the people that do. He's doing it to everybody. And it's one of those kinds of deception that seems to take on a life and an authority of its own. So it keeps on going. So I suspect that it's likely not simply happening to us countrywide, that we're experiencing this on a personal level maybe today. So take some time out for inner reflection. Check in to see, what's really going on here. And don't take things at face value. In fact, rather than simply falling right into place, take a step back. Just be reserved. Take an observational position and just wait for more information to really be certain of what's going on here. If things don't feel right, they're not. And that's just a given. I will tell you that. We know, intuitively, every single one of us, when something isn't right, we know. Now, we might not always acknowledge it, but we know. And since we're still seeing, this issue, Uranus semi-square Neptune continuing, the con is happening. We need to be aware of it. And use the sensitivity and the intuitiveness and the empath nature of Pisces and the influence right now, because it's the ascendant and that's a strong influence. Use that intuition. Let that work for you today, because you're going to need it. Especially, and I think given the fact that this has been going on for a while, I think we're going to all need it going forward. This isn't going to end for a while, I don't think. Like, this may be just where we are right now for a while. And so, we hear all these people talk about discernment, and I don't think they have any idea what it means. It's just something to chatter about. But I'm telling you, you need to get with what that means, and you need to start doing it, because deception is everywhere right now. And they depend on people buying it so they can continue on with more. That's the bottom line of this. So in any event, I'm sorry to spend so much time on that. It's just that I just don't have a good feeling about what's going on. So in any event, let's go ahead and get started and see what the cards have to say. Unfortunately, they've been, supporting this as well. So I don't know. We'll see what they have. We'll see what we start with, though, today. So let's take our first three cards and see what they have to say. Takes a bit always for my hands to start working. I'm taking the 13th card, so I'm counting 13. Yeah, I like to do that for randomness sake, as you know, if you've been here before. Well, we're going to start out with Justice, the 11th card of the Major Arcana. So a soul archetype card. We've been getting it a lot lately. Issues of justice, issues of deception, again. If you're unaccustomed to dealing with deception all the time, if you've had that type of a life where you've just been blessed and you haven't really had to cope with such things, other than, now and then, because everybody does now and then, right? But it's not a major part of your life. then this is going to be a really confusing time for you. You're going to want to believe the best in people, and you can't. I heard all last week, oh, so-and-so's a good person, and so-and-so will do the right thing, and so-and-so thinks about things, and so. No, they don't. It's all a con. Again, whatever they're doing, whatever they're saying, they're trying to convince you of something. And then they're going to go and do the opposite. When that happens, you know what you need to do then, don't you? You need to believe that opposite, that they lied to you. Oh, and they'll say, oh, no, I didn't. I didn't lie. I just made a different decision at the time. Yeah. A lot of that's going on right now, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but it's like looking through a dirty window. Eventually you got to clean it because it's too hard to look through. And that's how I feel about what's been going on. It's just too hard to look at any of it anymore because it's not going to change unless there's something, big that goes in and changes it. Here we have the Page of Swords. So, undeveloped potential, undeveloped new message, undeveloped direction. In other words, something new with respect to direction or a message or new thinking, So something new may come out today with respect to justice. So Lev must be issuing something else, I don't know, or maybe Mr. Bolton's finally going to put country over book sales and tell the truth of what happened so that we know. Not that it's going to matter in the Senate, but at least the country will know. Oh, Five of Swords. Okay. We're going to stop with 3 at least for now, and we'll decide in a little bit if we need to actually have another one. So, looks like I blanked out my screen there. I hope it didn't happen on your end. I don't think it does, because I know I watch these afterwards and it doesn't seem to happen, so I hope it didn't. Anyway, 11 is the master number for illumination, and we do not reduce it to 2. Because it's a master number. 22 is also a master number. That's the cosmic builder, and that's the year we're in. We're in a 2-month, so balanced energy exchange, decisions, maybe a month of decisions, a month of coming into balanced polarity. Let's see, also with the 3 energy for today, we're talking catalytic energy, so emotions could be high, unfortunately, sensitivities are high. Because it's a Monday, we're talking emotion. And so you see how we do that. That's how we, as witches, we combine these things together and come up with an idea. I suppose astrologers do too. But in any event, I just sort of think of it from a witch perspective, I guess. But with justice, we're looking at a familiar theme here. We see the 2 pillars. We see it in varying form. Now, it's likely part of the Lady Justice's throne here. Likely the queen, who brings a balancing effect to things. You see her sword is pointed to spirit, as she, in her right hand, it's her hand of strength, shows that spirit is the strongest force here for justice. Ego, might as well, that's why we're there, because of ego run amok. That's why justice is coming into play here, because ego has run amok. There's a demarcation line here at the bottom. Which is likely a step up into her throne. But it shows the delineation between justice and something that is not justice, criminality. That there's a little bit of step up that you have to go to. So justice is a little loftier, it's more of spirit than it is the ego and criminality. The relationship there, you see. She's not going to look you in the eye because she's being dispassionate about things and she's not judging. She's just going to look at the facts and look at what's really going on and make her decision from there. The air element is contained within justice, but so is fire. So is will. And I think that you see a balance between the two when you, and I'm sure emotion comes into it as well, but you want to leave the emotion out of it, because with emotion comes judgment, right? And so basically you're looking at balancing will with intellect when you're talking about justice. Now, what we have with the other two cards, they're both from the suit of swords. And so again, the air element. And we're talking about issues of intellect, of reason, of balance, of fairness, of justice today. I think that, well, I hesitate doing this, but I've switched the cards, okay? I've switched, and I'm going to start with the Five of Swords, and then we'll talk about it in reverse. Well, let's do it that way, okay? Here we have, and I just hate this card. I really do. We see the sketchy brown clouds in the sky. Five is about change. We see this guy who's way too happy about picking up the spoils of the argument that he supposedly won here. We've got one guy who's watching the other guy who's closer to the water's edge. We see a demarcation line there at the water's edge, don't we? Another one of those. We see the water beyond it. So the guy standing next to the water, though, is quite bereft. He's quite upset over the outcome. And the other guy's probably a little bit concerned about him. It looks like he's taking a step toward him. You can see that with his right foot is angled toward the man. He's looking toward him, and so he may be stepping toward him to make sure he's okay. While this other guy is just going to pick up all the swords. Now, victory's fine, but you don't want to gloat about it. And I think that because it doesn't feel to me like he won this victory in a fair manner, basically. So in other words, if the president is not impeached, he's impeached, if he's not convicted of that and thrown out of office, then this is what you have. You have everybody else wondering why in the heck, justice didn't enter in. And what on earth is going on? And why did this guy win? Why did he win? Why did he win the argument? When clearly, more is coming out every single day. I mean, he didn't win anything, right? When people turn their backs on, if you're someone, in other words, if you're someone who is in a position of authority to exact justice, if you're a judge, or a jury, oh my God, I got my jury summons on Friday, or Saturday rather, not Friday, Saturday. I got my jury summons and I mailed it back in today. I got to do 2 weeks of jury duty. My husband did it back in the summer. And now I guess I get to do it. But here's the thing, we do our civic duty. I filled it out. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to ignore it. I'm not going to just decide, oh, well, it doesn't matter what the truth is. I'm just not going to do it. It doesn't matter what the law is. It doesn't matter what the requirements of me as a citizen in this country are. I'm just not going to respond. Here we have the Page of Swords, though. So perhaps a new direction because some new information is going to come in. Justice never stops, all right? Justice is a soul level type of concept. It has nothing to do with form. It has nothing to do with ego other than the fact that we need to implement it, right? Or exact justice, right? Something happened here that shouldn't have. And a change has occurred. And people are upset. And they don't know what's going on. And there's no clarity to this. Justice comes in. Maybe in the form of new information. If you wanted to justice last, you could do it that way. You could say, there was some conflict. We don't understand this. This shouldn't have happened. Something new is coming in swiftly. You see the trees down here. The wind's blowing his hair. The clouds appear to be, going this way, blowing out, So there's wind. So there's movement. There's movement on understanding what's going on here. So clearly more information is going to come out today and over the course of the next few days and probably the next few months to show us how stupid the Senate is, okay, and how they failed the country. because more crime is going to come out. It's just that simple. And eventually, justice is going to be done. Might have to happen at the ballot box. I don't know. I don't know that it's going to be able to. If they hacked the last time, what are they doing now? You know, they're going to do it again. And how successful will they be this time? Will it be enough? Or can we all promise to get out and vote and get rid of this guy, right? What are we going to do here? Now, from a personal standpoint here, if this isn't having to do with what's going on in the country, you know, and it may not be. You may be involved in something where, you know, something has changed in your life, and it's likely having to do with something that's deceptive. Again, you know, we've got this Uranus semi-squared Neptune. We may not be able to discern too well right now that the con is in, the fix is in, and we already know that. But if it's happening in your personal life, you have to take a step back now. You have to go within. You have to take a look at what's going on, and you have to figure this out, because this feels significant. Like it's important, like you have to do it. If you don't, you know, you're going to end up in a spot that you're not going to be able to deal with. It's that kind of urgency. Justice is being affected in your life in some way, whether it's, you know, collectively, like we're all dealing with, or whether it's something going on. But you must take time to listen to the new facts, to try to discern what's going on here, to try to figure it out, to not close a blind eye and think the best of someone right now, because that someone is not worth it. They're not worth thinking the best of, because they're never going to tell you the truth. Never going to tell you the truth. And you have to know that about the situation. Now, maybe there's a reason they can't, you know, maybe there's some external, you know, force on them that's causing their behavior. Well, they likely put themselves there, so you can't feel too sorry for them. But at the same time, if they're being, you know, messed with somehow, maybe they're, and again, that's where discernment, what's at the heart of it? What's at the heart of the Five of Swords? What happened here? The problem is the sketchy brown clouds are up there, and that's deception. He won by means of deception. So if something is happening in your life where, you know, you're in a power situation where you're down here and you don't have any power in something, it seems to be taken away from you, your choices, your decisions, whatever the positive outcome that should be happening is not happening, and something else is happening, it's because it's happening because someone's deceiving you. That's what this is. You've got to take the bull by the horns, basically, and figure this out and go in a different direction. New type of thinking. So that things can come back into balance again, and so that justice can prevail. You can't live in this type of an energetic experience with people. We're never going to be even, but we want to hover, right? And if there is a time when someone has to take the reins and you're, you know, the one behind the scenes with the ascendant in Pisces right now, we're kind of feeling like that, then maybe we're not going to assert ourselves. Well, if you're not asserting yourself because you're trying to gain more information before you do, that's one thing. But if you're not asserting yourself because you're letting everybody run roughshod over you, that's another. Let's take a look at the rune and see if we can get any direction from that. I don't think we need another card. Because I just think it's clear. You know, there's a lot of deception going on right now, and people are counting on us believing it. And we can't. We know instinctively, intuitively, that it's not the right thing to do. Well, we have Perthro again. I think Perthro, isn't that the 14th rune? Let me look. Yes. So again, it's about change, 5 energy. This is the rune of chance, of luck. It's thought to be the cup from which the runes are cast. If you want to look at it as like a cauldron or a cup or a vessel of some kind. To the right, it can denote birth. To the left, it can denote death. There you have energies going upward to spirit. There you have going downward to form or to the ego. But right now, we're just going to look at it in its typical form. when we think about fate, fate is not necessarily carved in stone. Whatever's happening here is not carved in stone. There is a truth to be found here. There's a truth to be understood here. It's found in the Page of Swords, unfortunately. Oh, I just don't like court cards, so you know. But when we get the page is very similar to, and we've talked about this before. When you talk about undeveloped potential, you're talking about the Fool, right? The beginning of the major arcana. Although rumor has it that some people put it at the end, and I don't understand what that's about, but whatever. I guess maybe older tarot readers did. I don't know, from long time ago. But we always try to figure out, well, let's see, can we look at it a different way? But in any event, you know, you're talking the aces of the minor arcana, you're talking the Fool, and you're talking the pages. There's basically three groups of cards in tarot. Now, the court card is sort of an outlier. The court cards are an outlier, but yet they're still kind of part of the minor arcana, right? But you see beginnings in each grouping of the types of cards, whether you're talking about the Fool and coming into form and undeveloped potential, or you're talking about the Ace, which is the beginning of all energies of that particular suit. But something new is in Genesis, basically. Something new is developing. Now, when we think of Perthro, when we think of change and fate and how fate plays into all of that, fate is what we make it, you know? There's very little. The problem with fate and thinking about it in terms of it's carved in stone, generally speaking, the fate is an outcome. It's not a precursor, it's an outcome. If you think about it, fate is about, and if we want to decide what our outcome is going to be, then we have to change the cause and effect nature of what happens before that outcome happens. In other words, if you behave erratically in relationships, your fate is likely going to be you're not going to have them. If you don't show up for work, I mean, these are obvious, right? If you don't show up for work, your fate is likely going to be that you're not going to have a job. But it didn't start out that way, you know. You made choices along the way. It's you know, in this 2 month, you know, a 2 energy month. February is the second month of the year, so it's a 2 energy. You know, we're talking about not just decisions that are going to be made this month, but understanding the nature of fate within all of it, the nature of cause and effect. You know, if you break laws, you're supposed to not get away with that. People do, but ideally, the justice system is supposed to be intact enough that you don't. Well, we all know that that's, you know, just a matter of who's doing it, right? Who's involved, you know, who the prosecutors are, who the defendant is, you know, who the jury is, who the judge is. I mean, it just all depends, right? So we know that even justice isn't carved in stone. It just isn't, because humanity, you know, is the one that does it. It's not coming from source. It's not coming from the creator. It's coming from the ego side of things. And if the ego's not willing to be informed by spirit, then I don't know. You know, we kind of get what we have now, I think. But again, these are actions that have cause and effect, that are dealing in cause and effect. The action is the cause, and the effect is the fate afterwards. So fate is never a precursor. You know, it just isn't. It's about what we're going to do with all of this. Now, what have I done with my? Well, I don't know. Yes, I do. There it is. Difficult to see sometimes to put these things in order. I put the geomancy runes in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, so I can discern what they are. It looks like we've got Tristitia, the opposite of Laetitia. So Tristitia is sorrow, and it's confusion, and it's loss, but not. You know, if Laetitia is joy, then Tristitia is sorrow. And so we're dealing today again with emotions being high. Remember, ascendant is in Pisces, so very, very sensitive, emotional. Um, Unfortunately, it's the empath's worst nightmare. So anyway, because they're, intrusive energies are high right now, and people are going to visit them on everyone, even though they don't want to. They're upset, they're confused, they're worried, they're fearful, and so they're living in the tristitia of it all instead of the laetitia of it all. And so they're making the choice to remain in the confusion instead of stepping back away from it and trying to discern what's really happening. You could say that the man closest to the water is remaining in the tristitia of this, in the sorrow of the moment. And he's not trying to find a way out of that, to the point that he's got someone else really concerned about him, while the other guy just doesn't care. But I think that that's where we find ourselves, right now, energetically. This just could be, in a sense, maybe a sorrowful day, in a way. And so if it is, then it's just time to take yourself out of the moment, take yourself out of whatever's going on, remove yourself, and go and find a place to just be quiet and try to let whatever's going on pass without reacting. Reaction oftentimes just makes things worse. And maybe you're reacting before you really have a true understanding of what's going on today. So again, issues of justice, issues of things have happened and we don't understand them. The most obvious one is what's happening to all of us collectively. If it's also happening, though, in your personal life, then I'm so sorry. And it doesn't feel good when it does. And if this is really an empath reading, then you're going to have to take your own counsel today. You're going to have to shield. You're going to have to really just remove yourself. That's what I intend to do. I'm just going to remove myself from things today and just sort of hang out in my still room and write and do all the things I'm supposed to do and not, probably involve myself with anything else, because it just, things just feel like that today, don't they? So in any event, I guess that's it. I don't really have anything, I think, more to add about this. Just keep your own counsel and stay as quiet as possible and non-reactive as possible, and focus on the synchronicities that are happening. They're going to tell you what you need to know. Listen to the facts that come out, if they come your way today, about whatever it is that you're going through. And then we may need to just simply be prepared for the fact that, or for the possibility that this is just not going to resolve in any way that makes any sense at all. And decisions may need to be made about that, about where you go from there. So over the course of this next month, because I think that this is really, I just know from the other readings that I've done for the month, because the monthly geomancy reading's up, so is the monthly tarot reading is up. There's also one for empaths. An empath forecast is up. That's just for the week, though. I just think that things are in flux right now, and we don't really know what's going on. And until we do, I think it's just best to keep our own counsel and focus on the synchronicities that are happening, because I think, again, that's the place we need to be watching. Also watch for outliers, things that just simply come out of the blue and you don't really know, well, what in the heck does that have to do with anything? Hang on to it. It may not resonate at the moment, but it's alerting you to something that's coming. So know that as well. I guess that's it. I can't really think of anything else to use as a, just as a way of understanding the per throw nature of what's coming. It may just have to be arise individually, and then eventually it'll all gel together collectively, I think. But that feels like what's going to happen. So, in any event, let's just keep watch and just keep your eyes open, your ears open, and but at the same time, stay reserved and see if we can't figure out what's going on here. Maybe we'll figure this out by the end of the week, by Thursday. Maybe we won't. Um, but again, this feels like something that's going to settle in a bit, and something that, in other words, I guess what I'm trying to say is that uh, it's like when you've turned a blind eye to something. You've been willfully blind. We all do that, you know. It's like, oh God, I don't want to look at that. And sometimes it's subconscious. We don't even realize we're doing it. It's what happens when we stay in situations we shouldn't, you know, because we're really not looking at them. We're not wanting to make a change. We're not wanting to move out of our comfort zone, even in conflict situations. I know that sounds odd, but I had an aunt and uncle that were like that. They finally got divorced, but it took years and years and years and years and years because they both got something from that dysfunctional relationship. And that's, maybe, if we're getting something out of a dysfunctional relationship, then maybe we need to rethink that and figure out a way to make it functional again, And if we can't, then maybe a decision needs to be made. So this may be a month where we keep our own counsel and we go within a lot. And we just try to figure out, what's going on and what are we going to do about it. So in any event, thanks so much for watching. Check out the blog over at imsteppingaside.com. It's called Stepping Aside again. And check out all the new posts that are over there. Follow me, everywhere underneath the video. There's some other stuff under there. If you want to check any of that stuff out as well, you could do that too. But come back tomorrow and click subscribe here. I'd love you to do that. And come back and we'll discuss more about tarot and runes and how it impacts our lives. So in any event, thanks a bunch for coming by. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.